Hello everyone, in this video we'll be studying about hormonal disorders and symptoms and their causes. So let's get started. So the very first hormone that we have here is the growth hormone. So as you can see here, this is the growth hormone here, and here you can see this table. It shows you the hormone, the origin gland, that is the gland which produces this hormone, the hormones that actually are responsible for the stimulation of the secretion of this hormone, the target organ function, normal secret, what happens when there is normal secretion, and when there is too much of secretion, the causes of it being in excess, when it is too little, and the cause of it being in deficiency or being too little. So here first we have growth hormone. So growth hormone is secreted by the pituitary gland, that is by the anterior pituitary, and the releasing hormone from hypothalamus that is responsible for the release of growth hormone is growth hormone releasing hormone. The target organ is muscles and bones. So it targets those and helps in rapid cell division. So rapid cell division helps the muscles and bones to grow. So when it is secreted in normal amounts, there is normal height that is attained by the individual and normal limbs are seen, like normal length of limbs is seen. If it is secreted in excess or too much, what happens? So now first disorder is the gigantism. So you might have seen some people who are really tall and they are very big. So they are either like 8 feet or 8.5. They reach such heights. So that is a disorder called gigantism, and they have really large hands and feet, and they have a large or a long face. So that is gigantism, and gigantism is like since the childhood it can be seen. Then there is another disorder called acromegaly. So acromegaly is when the joints of the body, like the finger joints and all the joints in the body, are really enlarged, and you can see they have very broad like eyebrows, like the bones, like eye sockets are very big, and they have a broad chin, thick lips. So these are all symptoms of acromegaly. And acromegaly, it can be by birth or also it can occur in adulthood. Why it occurs in adulthood means if there is pituitary cancer or there is any other like cancerous tumors present in pituitary, which will cause excess of stimulation to the growth hormone. So like excess of growth hormone will be released. So as you know, in what happens in whenever there is presence of cancer, cancer is nothing but a tumor. So when cancer is present, there is a tumor. So the tumor is a bunch of cells. Now, if that is a pituitary cancer, what happens? It has a bunch of pituitary cells that are more in number, like you have excess of cells there. And what happens when there is normal stimulation from hypothalamus to produce this hormone? All those cells will produce that growth hormone. So what happens is there is excess of growth hormone, and this can cause acromegaly in adulthood. Then if it is secreted too little or there is deficiency of growth hormone, it causes dwarfism. So dwarfism, you might have seen some people, they are very short. So they are called dwarfs in sometimes, like for a clinical terminology. So they are very short and they are like 4'11" like that. So even they are shorter than most normal growing children. So they children who are in the ages of 11 and teenagers, they are even shorter than those people. And again, the cause of this is genetic. Then next hormone that we have is the thyroid stimulating hormone. So thyroid stimulating hormone is again released by the pituitary in response to thyrotropin releasing hormone. This is secreted by the hypothalamus, and this acts on the thyroid gland and stimulates the release of T3 and T4. This actually helps in maintenance of normal BMR and metabolism. Too much of it can indicate hypothyroidism. So hypo means low, hypothyroidism. So what is hypothyroidism? Hypothyroidism is nothing but that is the deficiency of thyroid hormones, that is T3 and T4. Now how does this indicate, like too much of TSH, how does it indicate hypothyroidism? See, what happens is if there is less of T3 and T4 in hypothyroidism, right? What happens is there is not enough T3 and T4 circulating in our system. So this actually sends a feedback to pituitary gland that see and hypothalamus that see that pituitary gland is like the thyroid hormones are very less, so it needs more thyroid hormones for normal functioning. So what does pituitary do? It releases more TSH to stimulate this thyroid gland so that it can release T3 and T4. So what happens is excess of TSH is being released and T3 and T4 are not in enough quantities. So this indicates hypothyroidism here. So whenever blood tests are conducted, if there is excess of TSH and T3 and T4 are either normal or low, then it is hypothyroidism. And the causes of this is Hashimoto's disease and too little thyroid hormone. So as I said, if there is too little of thyroid hormone, the pituitary keeps on getting stimulated to release TSH so that it can act on the thyroid gland and produce more T3 and T4. And that is the reason that we see that too much of TSH is there. And what is the reason that this thyroid is secreted in too little quantity is because of a disease called Hashimoto's disease, and this is an autoimmune disease. Now, as I said, autoimmune disease is nothing but a condition where your immune system attacks its own cells. Like your body thinks that its own cells are nothing but a foreign body. So our immune system normally it functions against any foreign bodies like virus, bacteria, etc. But it thinks that sometimes in autoimmune diseases, what happens is it thinks that its own cells, body cells, are any foreign body and attacks them. So that causes a condition called autoimmune disorder, and one of those is Hashimoto's disease, where thyroid gland is affected. Now, in this, what happens is there is inflammation of thyroid called thyroiditis, and that causes damage to thyroid gland. If there is damage, then what happens is the amount of hormones released is it decreases. Then, if this is secreted in too little quantity, so what are the causes? Like hyperthyroidism is seen. So, as I said, what happens in the hypothyroidism when it is secreted too much? The reason is hypothyroidism, right? If it is secreted too little, it's hyperthyroidism. Again, the same concept. In this, what happens is there is too much of T3 and T4 being circulated in the system. So there is no feedback mechanism to pituitary, and pituitary is signaled to produce very little of TSH so that thyroid gland does not get stimulated to release any more T3 and T4. So what are the causes? Excess of T3 and T4, as I said, enlarged thyroid. So enlarged thyroid is when there is more of follicular cells in thyroid. Usually it happens in, again, thyroiditis, inflammation of thyroid, and it is because of toxic nodule formation. What are nodules? Nodules are nothing but they are abnormal lumps present. So they are small lumps or like small lumpy texture, that the structure that is present. These are formed in the thyroid gland, and this is again due to a condition, an autoimmune condition. Now the autoimmune condition that can be responsible is called Graves' disease. So Graves' disease is another autoimmune disorder responsible for hyperthyroidism. Now the autoimmune disease responsible for hypo was Hashimoto's. So this is the TSH function and what happens when it is too much and too little. And the next one we have is melatonin. Melatonin is secreted by the pineal gland when it is stimulated by the melanocyte stimulating hormone. This melatonin is responsible for the sleep cycle. Sleep cycle, sleep patterns, daytime, whatever you have 24-hour patterns, and what functions you do, your menstrual cycle, everything is regulated by this melatonin. And if it is in normal quantities, normal circadian rhythms are seen. So what is a normal circadian rhythm? So normal circadian rhythm is your 24-hour cycle. The time you wake up, the activities you perform, the time you eat, the functions you do throughout the day, your muscle tone, your body temperature, everything is this circadian rhythm. So when it is in normal quantities, normal circadian rhythms are seen. If it is secreted too much, so what happens is opposite of this occurs. So when, as I said here, your normal waking time, your sleeping time, everything is regulated, right? So if this is normal, your whole daytime rhythm and the 24-hour cycle is normal. If it is too much, it becomes opposite. So if, for example, you sleep at night, right, and you wake up in the day, you perform your activities. If this is secreted too much, you feel like you cannot sleep at night and you are feeling sleepy throughout the day, or you don't feel sleepy at all. So a lot of these things happen, and this is because it is too much in quantity. And the cause of this is lack of sun. So if there is lack of sun, that means that if you are like the weather is too cold, or winters are there, so sun is not present in with its full potential, right? So, or if it is the daytime becomes shorter during this time, winter time. So what happens at that time? This melatonin is secreted in very high quantities. Then if it is secreted in too low quantities, there is a condition called insomnia that occurs. So insomnia is nothing but sleeplessness. So you don't feel like sleeping at all. So even at night, a person is not feeling sleepy. They feel tired, they feel fatigued, but they don't sleep that they don't feel that they can sleep. Their functionality is gone, that they cannot function normally, but they cannot sleep. And this is due to smoking, alcohol, and aging. Then the very next gland that we have is the thymosin. So this thymosin is the hormone that is secreted by the thymus. So this is actually secreted in response to the nervous system, and due to the presence of growth hormone. So growth hormone is responsible for this production, and it regulates the thymosin production. Then this acts on the T cells and helps in differentiation. So in bone marrow we get produce normal cells, and they divide rapidly, but they don't have any function. So this thymus actually allots them the function of becoming T cells, which actually help in the immunity. This will be studying in the immunity chapter. But here you just remember T cells are actually are function for they function for immunity. So T cells, their main function is providing immunity to the body. So when they are secreted, their function is providing immunity. In normal amounts, they give immunity to the body, normal immunity. And as I said, thymus is a very small gland, that is a bilobular gland present behind the chest bone, and it is present in front of the trachea. It is a very small gland, and it degrades with age. So till puberty, it increases in size. After puberty, it starts to diminish or degrade. So our immunity also decreases. And when it is in too much, there is nothing, like it cannot be in too much of quantity, or there is no symptoms about it. And if it is in very less quantity, obviously there will be lack of immunity, and this will be due to AIDS and thymoma. Now we have the T3 and T4 glands, T4 hormones, or thyroid hormones. So T3 and T4 are the thyroid hormones secreted by the thyroid gland on stimulation from the TSH from pituitary. We studied about TSH previously here. So TSH stimulates the response of releasing of T3 and T4. So these act on the gut, kidney, nerves, and brain. So this acts on the gut, so metabolism and everything is regulated. Kidneys helps in RBC formation. Nerves and brains is proper development of nerves and brains. So they regulate normal BMR, metabolism, and RBC formation. And in normal quantities, normal metabolism is seen. And here, if there is too much of this T3 and T4 we discussed here, this is called hyperthyroidism, and this is caused by Graves' disease. It is an autoimmune disease that causes inflammation of the thyroid gland and causes excessive production of thyroid hormone, or hyperthyroidism. Then Plummer's disease. This is another disease that causes nodular formation and causes hyperthyroidism. Then thyroiditis. Thyroiditis is nothing but inflammation of thyroid gland. Inflammation is nothing but swelling. Then we have, if it is secreted in too little quantities, we have hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism is again caused by the autoimmune disease over response to medication. So if there is hyperthyroidism and medications are being taken, if there is too much of medications are taken, then this hypothyroidism can occur. thyroid surgery. In case there is something like thyroid cancer, then thyroid gland is removed. So in that case, hypothyroidism can occur. And due to radiation, again because of presence of a cancer or any such problems, radiations are actually given. Radiations are administered to the patient. So what happens is the thyroid gland cells get destroyed. So what happens is again hypothyroidism can occur. Again medication, congenital. It can be a congenital situation where the mother might have this hypothyroidism and even the baby develops it in some conditions. Any problems with pituitary can cause problems with TSH release, and this causes hypothyroidism. And pregnancy, so in pregnancy also this is very common. Then iodine deficiency. When there is iodine deficiency, there is a condition called iodine deficiency goiter. So goiter is nothing but the enlargement of thyroid gland. So iodine is really necessary for the formation of this T3 and T4. If this iodine is not taken in sufficient quantities, the follicular cells multiply rapidly to produce this thyroid hormones. So what happens is if there's a follicular cells, if they increase in quantity, the thyroid gland enlarges. So if for example you might have seen a lot of people, they have a very large lump in front of their necks. So usually this happens in villages and when there is not enough iodine in the diet. So what happens is to prevent this condition, in India this is very common. So prevent this condition, what they have done is they have started a release of iodized salt. So if you have seen like most of the salts that we buy are iodized salts. So they have the required amount of iodine in them. And when we consume those salts, the iodine need for our body is met. But in villages and many other places, there is presence of goitrogens in their food. So goitrogens are nothing but they are a substance present in especially pulses and legumes. What they do is they take this iodine and they prevent it binding from the or prevent the absorption in the body of this iodine. So what happens is goiter can occur. So they are called goitrogens. So what are the symptoms of hyper and hypothyroidism? So hyperthyroidism, normal we have these are the functions of normally of the thyroid hormones, right? Normally thyroid hormones perform these functions, that is regulation of BMR, metabolism, RBC formation, etc. If hyperthyroidism occurs, this metabolism increases. If metabolism increases, what happens is the person starts to lose weight unintentionally. There is excess of hair fall, and also there is the eyes are protruding. So that is a symptom of hyperthyroidism. In hypothyroidism, what happens is there is the opposite effect. Metabolism decreases, so the person begins to gain weight. And what happens is there again hair fall might there. Then they have very dry skin, because what happens is fat is metabolized when this thyroid hormone is released. Now fats are not metabolized properly, so the skin does not have enough fat in that. So it causes dryness, or proper oils are not there in the skin, production of oil on skin. So what happens is dryness of skin can occur, and weight gain, hair fall, and so on are the symptoms of hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism is very dangerous in pregnancy. It can cause severe brain damage to the fetus called cretinism. So cretinism causes stunted growth, mental disabilities, etc. Then we have the parathyroid hormone. This parathyroid hormone is actually released by the parathyroid gland, as we know. So parathyroid gland is stimulated by the negative feedback mechanism from the calcium levels in the blood. So this does not have any hormone by default that actually stimulates the parathyroid gland to release this parathyroid hormone. This acts on gut, kidney and bones. So in gut it helps in increased calcium absorption, in kidney helps in calcium retention, in bones it actually helps in reabsorption of calcium from bones. Now this is it increases serum calcium levels. Its function is that if it is in normal quantities, normal calcium levels are present in blood. If too much of this is secreted, hyperparathyroidism, what happens is from bone it actually absorbs calcium, right? So as I said, in normal function it increases the calcium levels. To do that, it has to do it by three ways. So first way is by increasing absorption from food. So if there is not enough sufficient calcium is not being taken in the food, what happens is it does not have any calcium to absorb there. In kidney, it only helps in retaining that calcium. But bones are reservoir of calcium. So excess of parathyroid hormone takes excess of calcium from bones and it increases calcium levels. So what that does is it causes weak bones. It causes weak bones. It causes kidney stones because of excess of calcium. This is because the causes are chronic kidney disease. In chronic kidney disease, what happens is calcium is being excreted. That it decreases the calcium levels. So, in turn, what it will do, it will increase this increase the parathyroid hormone secretion because calcium levels are low in the blood. It gives a negative feedback to the parathyroid gland to produce more parathyroid hormone. Another reason is the cancer of the parathyroid gland. So if parathyroid gland has a cancerous tumor, more cells are present, more hormone is secreted. Then again because of calcium deficiency and vitamin D deficiency. So inadequate diet. So calcium deficiency, if not enough calcium is taken by us, serum levels will decrease and in turn it will go to bones to absorb calcium. And vitamin D is very important for the absorption of calcium. Then hypoparathyroidism, that is very low levels of parathyroid hormone are present. What happens in this condition is whatever calcium deficiency does to the body, this also does so. So you feel very tingling sensation in your hands and legs. So that is because calcium is responsible for the normal nerve signaling and normal signals in the body. And also muscle spasms might be seen. Then this occurs due to injury to the parathyroid gland. So if parathyroid gland is damaged, not enough parathyroid hormone is secreted. So in the next part we will study about the hormones of adrenal gland.